There are a lot of things that I have to talk about in this chapter, specifically the stuff that I got wrong. However, the fight between Lolong and Ramon is over, and Lolong has won by a landslide. Ramon really didn't do anything substantial in this fight. However, there is something very wrong here, and that is the fact that Ramon is still conscious on the ground. Why I think that's a problem is because we know for a fact from the beginning of this fight that Ramon wasn't really playing by the rules per se. He even had the goal of killing Lolong, which was against the rules of the fight. And so I theorize that we're not exactly done between Lolong and Ramon here. I think that if Ramon blatantly didn't want to follow the rules at the beginning of the fight, he won't follow the rules at the end of it. The question, however, is what this impact will have on Lolong. Will he just completely be fine after this, if of course this happens, or will someone else jump in? Either way, let's get on to the chapter review and breakdown, which is actually called Inevitable, and that is a pretty fitting title considering what happens in the chapter. However, the chapter starts off with both Lolong and Ramon standing face to face to one another while Ramon is technically recovering from the 2 invisible elbows that he took from Lolong in the last chapter, which is where I'll get into the first thing that I got wrong in the last chapter, and that was assuming that there was only one invisible elbow that Lolong used, because of course after he had launched his second one, we then got the title card for Invisible Elbow. But it is confirmed in this chapter that both the elbows towards the end of the chapter were invisible elbows. So I'll take the L on that one, and it does sort of explain how the paneling was for the end of last week's chapter. But with that information, Lolong points out that Ramon managed to resist or at least endure a hit from 2 invisible elbows, which is of course his finishing move, or a lethal move you could say, which speaks a lot for Ramon's endurance, and that is why Ramon is still up, because he has probably higher durability or higher endurance. But Lolong has to now think of another way to take Ramon out of the fight. But Ramon is also doing the exact same thing, and it is at this point where he is basically done analyzing his opponent, or he's still in the progress of analyzing his opponent, and realizes that he probably has to change up his attack pattern again, unlike from what he was doing. But this time he wouldn't be using Krav Maga. Hopefully I said that right this time, because he takes the exact same stance that he took against Sakigake. And I did see a post, at least on Reddit, where there was a theory that this was a completely different fighting style, but that's not exactly what's going on here when it comes to this stance. It's actually an attack that Ramon is trying to use here, and this attack seems to be the ace in the hole that Ramon has apparently, and it's working off of a similar principle for when someone has a knife. And the narrator points out that when someone wants to kill another person with a knife, the best strategy to do that is to hold the knife towards your torso and tackle your opponent, driving the knife through them with the additional power of your body weight. And so using the same principle here, Ramon's attack works in a similar fashion. In fact, we get a flashback of what happened between Ramon and Sakigake, and Sakigake unfortunately fell prey to this attack and got basically one-shotted, because that's how powerful this attack is. It has one-shotting capability, which keep that in mind, because I think this is a huge trend in this tournament where the characters are basically, they have techniques that are so lethal that you can't really afford to make a mistake. Otherwise, you're basically cooked, right? And I'll probably have a discussion about this later on, because I am planning to have a discussion with someone else about the tournament so far. But we then get some more information about this attack, and it's actually similar to what Canada can do with his attack called the Organ Breaker. I think he tried to use that against Hatsumi in his fight against him, like very lethal move to use against your opponent. Even he admitted that in that fight. And with that, the show must go on. The referee is like, look, we're running out of time, fight on. And Ramon charges in at Lolong with this attack. And this might seem like a terrible strategy, but I do get Ramon's idea here, because he's basically taken a hit from the invisible elbow and he knows how much of damage it does to him. And so he's made the decision that, look, even if Lolong hits me with an invisible elbow, I'll be on his ass by that time and you'll have to take my attack. And so it is a worthwhile trade for Ramon to take the invisible elbow here, at least as long as he protects his vitals. And we see Lolong, he's getting ready, of course, he's almost blocking preemptively. And as Ramon is closing in, he's right on top of him. Lolong manages to basically intercept Ramon's right hand to put it down, and Ramon uses his left hand to try and grab Lolong for his attack, to hold him in place so that he can actually deliver the blow or finish up the tackle attack, basically by holding him in place there. And we see him, of course, he's thinking in his head, now. And all of a sudden we see a shocked face from Ramon, and something he did not see coming, or let me not say he didn't see it coming, he more so didn't expect it to come. And that is another elbow, but this time this elbow is going straight to his throat, and it's a pretty brutal hit, I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I saw this, I was like, ooh, that's probably gonna hurt for a while. And we see, of course, Yamashita, he is, of course, shocked at this. Mr. Lee, he's like, whoa. As well as Akiyama, they're all shocked at this. They're like, oh man. But with that, with his oxygen basically cut off, Ramon falls to the ground. And the referee, he basically calls the match. It's over, we're done. Lolong has straight up won this fight with that move. However, Yamashita goes on to break down what happened, because while it looked like Lolong was preemptively blocking, he was in fact trying to lure in Ramon so that he could get him in range of his next attack, which of course we haven't seen him use before, which was the inevitable elbow. And the reason it's called the inevitable elbow is that at that range, whenever he launches the inevitable elbow, even if you see it coming, you're so close, you're in such a bad spot that you're gonna take the attack no matter what. And unfortunately for Ramon, he just didn't have the chance to launch his own attack at Lolong within that time frame. It was just that fast. Even though you could see it coming, he was just cooked at that point when he had actually come in range of Lolong's attack. And with that, it's literally just, it's over. At least that's what you think, because we do have a few words, of course, from Lolong himself. He's like, hey, look, you're pretty good. You forced me to do, you know, the inevitable elbow. You know, he's giving Ramon his props, and I think Ramon deserves at least a few props, right? Because you did take 2 invisible elbows and 1 inevitable elbow. And when he took the 2 invisible elbows, Lolong was pretty much surprised that he actually managed to stay conscious and in the fight after taking 2 invisible elbows. But I said I don't think the fight is over. Because again, Ramon is still on the ground, and Ramon's goal is to kill Lolong. Ramon doesn't care about the rules of this tournament per se. And we know for a fact from his own flashback that Ramon kills his opponents in Slaughter Coliseum because he's their champion. And even Mr. Lee, from his perspective, he was like, oh yeah, you know, why did you kill your opponent? And Ramon tried to justify the reasons he did, of course. And so I'm going to wait one more chapter because I genuinely think that there is a danger for Lolong here. Because if he gets a critical injury from this, then Lolong's in big trouble for this tournament. Because he is either getting eliminated or he tries to push through with that injury. Now, there is the more obvious case because we are dealing with the monster of Manila. That really, this is just further annoyance for Lolong. He just, whips his ass again. That's also a possibility. However, I think there was a very big point in Ramon being the opponent that Lolong specifically faced here. Knowing everything we know about Ramon, it could be that there isn't really that much consequence, but I have a feeling that there might be. Or Mr. Lee steps in, because I do have the theory that Mr. Lee has a tranquilizer with him to stop Ramon from going berserk, if he does. But yeah, that's the video. My thoughts on the fight, I am somewhat disappointed because of Ramon's performance. Like, don't get me wrong, he did good. He really did. I expected more though, and I might still get more. So I'm very hesitant to give like a final verdict. But if this is the cutoff point for Ramon, then yes, there is that disappointment. Because even though the build-up to him fighting Lolong was pretty good actually, his fight against Lolong itself is him basically taking all of Lolong's attacks and not landing a single one. He got no progress. Like Julius, at least technically, right? Julius performed better than Ramon if we're just looking at like raw performance. And Julius, he was getting his ass handed to him. I was laughing at his ass when he was getting his ass handed to him. But Ramon has potentially done worse. But hey, that's the chapter. Don't forget to like and sub. And until next time, take it easy.